All right, all right, all right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On to another episode of Talking That Talk Official podcast where we have comfortable and uncomfortable conversations. I am your host, Juice, aka No Ordinary Brother.
What's good, everybody? I go by the name of King Exodus. Thank you for tapping in. We appreciate your time. Make sure you share the live, engage into the conversation. Alrighty. Um, what we doing? 2026. Another
2026, y'all.
episode.
Happy New Year. I think we already did that. Yeah, we did that part already. Ah, my goodness, y'all. Y'all got to forgive me. Sometimes I be goofy at times.
All right. The conversation tonight we're gonna have is parenting versus society. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So we'll break it down in different type of layers to where we go into what do we mean by parenting and the positive and the negative ways. We'll do the same thing with society. Society will be like more the outside influences, maybe inside of parenting, but mainly outside of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And how do these two things put us into a space of time of what we call right now? Is it because parenting, right, is at an all-time low, or is it that society is functioning at an all-time low? So it can be both. So we'll have a conversation. I'll let you give your intro.
All right, y'all. We still do live at fives. You want to go straight to the meat and potatoes, bro?
Um, that's meat and potatoes. If you have a live at five, then we can do that.
Well, yeah, my first thing I'm gonna do with my live at five is on the subject of parenting versus society. Is my subject I want to bring up is who to blame. Right? We hear it all the time. Like, hey, listen, you're responsible for the life you live, no matter what has happened to you. But some people will really say, like, listen, the things that has happened to me is also what prevents me from moving forward. So I'm really curious to hear like everybody's different thoughts on who's to blame. I done seen people make a lot of progress. A relationship goes bad. Now they never in a relationship because of that. I done seen things go bad for people, and because of that bad situation, they make enormous progress. They use it as fuel. So, are we really responsible for everything that happens to us, or are we victims of our circumstances or situations? That's something I really feel like that should be addressed. Because many times we can always say you're responsible for everything, and people say no, that person contributes so much to them that they couldn't be more, they couldn't be better. It's because, but then I always say, is that a limiting belief or is that actual core within yeah, a core? I say a core impact within that person's life as to why they can't make progress. Just like I know individuals who take care of their parents and never in all the dreams they had, everything they want to put forth, it's on the back burner because they feel like it's their duty to take care of their parents and whatever they have wanted to do or wanted to accomplish, it is no longer needs to be done. So, yeah, just a rundown.
All right, cool. Everybody is responsible for themselves. How you turn out is definitely on you. Um, even though that sounds pretty simple, a lot of people got to get to a point in life to where that switch is actually turned on and they're aware of it. Some people feel like, maybe if they're younger, they feel like they have time to correct. And, so it's a lot of time for error. And any mistakes made, hey, it's because I'm young. Um, I always say, like, in my opinion, the average person probably doesn't really just start taking on that type of energy of what we're talking about till maybe like close to 40, maybe past 40,
Mm.
just on an average. Um, so I would just simply say, yeah, you're definitely responsible for your outcome. But in order to take that responsibility, I feel like you always have to evaluate everything. Don't just get high on your own supply and think that egotistically you got it. You still have to do research on yourself like you would research anything else in life. The same way you would go and get a degree, the same way you would go and get into investing and study markets, and you want to study a craft before you master it. That's the same energy you have to put into taking that responsibility in life,
Mm.
meaning you have to study yourself, meaning you have to study where you come from. You have to study your family lineage, study characteristics, study everything that you can to make you the best version of yourself. Some people go straight to the religion. Some people go and join a martial arts. Some people go and relocate, move, and change their diet. So many different ways you can go about taking that responsible steps. But nonetheless, I say yeah, it's definitely on a person. But sad to say, not too many people are aware of that 100%. We're trained to look more so outside than within.
Mm,
So if we constantly can't get it right, eventually the average human will start thinking like, well, maybe it's not in God's plan for me to do that in this lifetime. And
mm,
we'll start justifying the failures,
mhm,
making sense out of the nonsense.
mhm.
So yeah, not to go too hard on that, but hopefully that answered the question.
Oh man, it definitely answered the question. Like I said, it's your interpretation. In fact, I like to make a little snippet out of that, run a couple things within our own little podcast to see how other people respond to it. Like I said, I always said it's either you're a victim. What is that? You're a victim or a victor. You're a winner or a loser. It's like different things that people live their life by. And like I said, some people always need something to blame, and some people can look at inwards to the responsibilities of things that have happened in their life as to why they are where they are. Uh, what's up? You got live at 5
Let's
over there?
let's add to one little thing you said.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, I grew up. I can't remember what age. I think I was probably in high school. I started getting up early on Sunday mornings, and some kind of way in the house, we started watching Joel Osteen every Sunday. You know what I'm saying, before church. And I would always say him say that either you're a victim or a victor. And that was probably the first time I heard somebody say that. But moving forward, that's definitely true, but in layers. I think before it becomes a separation, you're both. And you're probably both uh, majority of the time. It's just in percentages. You
Mm,
can't really be victorious without being a victim to things that's beneath success. This
mm,
is how you become successful. You just have to be aware of what you're actually, uh, quote unquote, a victim to in order to break the mentalities. It's not that one mentality only exists at a time in different categories of your life. This shit is real on both sides. You have percentages of both. So lying to yourself out of ego or motivating yourself to get past low points is cool, but you only become stronger when you actually work on your weaknesses.
mm.
So I just wanted to say that you're definitely both, but in different categories, everybody had their strengths and their weaknesses. You have to be aware of both. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, okay, cool. You strong with this, but what are you weak to? This is how you're gonna become stronger faster versus just pertaining to your strengths. Some people fall to their weaknesses and like I said, they don't even realize it. So you got
Oh, that was it. You want to add to it? Add to it. Like I said what I said. I made my questionnaires. I did. That's to get people to think and
okay.
answer.
All right. So parenting versus society. Um let's key in a little bit on the parenting part.
Right.
Mm, some people believe they're more weighted towards parenting uh overrules society. Um I definitely believe in both. I think society has a bigger pull at certain points, but parenting is like the foundation of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, for some people that didn't have parents and didn't have the proper parenting, even if you had parents, those people went and built their own foundation throughout life, whether it was through mentors, family members, friends, people they met throughout time. They were able to put themselves in a position of being a student. So I would just simply say um, the parenting part is critical because it'll put people in a position to where they won't always have to go outside of the house to get things corrected. Not everybody can do that. Some people, if home is complicated and chaotic and the energy there is failure, then 9 times out of 10, people follow that energy. So going back to the victim or victor mentality, well, that person would have to see the environment, right? Parenting or lack thereof as a flaw, and then you make the decision there. Now being victorious don't mean it happened overnight because you're getting things outside of the home. So it takes time. Um, Now, how much time you can revisit that conversation of victim or victor mentality, and if you spend too much time now being a victim, then you never cross that border to becoming successful. So you'll have a balance between that. So to the parenting aspect in today's time, we can take it to maybe hypersexuality in today's times,
Mhm.
to where nothing sells without sex. Um, we could break it down into common respect people have for each other. Some
Mhm.
people will taught respect at home. Some people always say things like, I respect people first. And some people say respect is earned, which means you don't get respect off the rip. So I think we can separate it into those little categories of parenting first.
Okay. Respect.
No question on that. No question on that. Let's see. What are the parenting flaws you see just based on how people act nowadays, the youth, so to say?
Uh, parenting flaws. Well, one of the parenting flaws is not teaching. That's always going to be a parenting flaw. Not teaching, not guiding, not structuring,
Okay.
becoming a friend. And I'm also writing this stuff down, y'all. I want
Okay.
to make sure I get more points. Becoming a friend. And what are the things in failure to adapt?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Now, the reason why I chose these as one of the negatives within parenting, because they will serve a bigger purpose into who your child becomes. A parent that never learned how to adapt never learns how to grow. Adaptation is one of the main focal points in this world. You don't adapt, you come extinct. You don't grow, you die. You don't do more, you have less. This has always been some of the biggest factors within life and contributions. And one of the main things sometimes people say is like, listen, some parents don't adapt to the new ways of teaching methods. Now, as a person, I'll tell you right now, there's some things I always say I'm biased in certain areas. There's some things I don't believe you should adapt to. But what I mean in teaching areas is learning how to learn your child and do the necessary things for them to understand. Right? I think one of the funniest things I ever seen was South Park had like an episode, right? And they said this is how you deal with ADHD. And there was kids around him that were acting up with ADHD, and he just smacked him. He was like, sit your ass down. And I was busting out laughing. He said that was the medicine for ADHD. You parent hard, you get the people to act right, and watch them change. Now, coincidentally, like some of the methods actually did work out for kids I knew personally in my life, but I won't say on a general basis. Because at the same time, a person might say, like, yelling at a person with a disability really doesn't help that situation. It actually confuses them more as to why are you yelling. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing I want to make sure I put out there at the same time. Uh, Too many people want to become friends with their kids. I don't understand it. I never understood it. Like, we talk about effective parenting. We can go from biblical texts to culture impacts. Then we pull out different cultures when it comes to manhood and when a father should be in his household. There was nothing about being a friend to your child because the thing about being a friend to your child is people forget they look at you as an eye level. My friends, I look at as an eye level. If you have a child looking at you at eye level, there's no respect within the hierarchy or to understand you because we see each other at eye level. That's why your parents used to always say, "Listen, my friends are my friends." That was a reason. So you don't so you understand you're not on that level. You're not in that place. And too much everybody wants to be like, "Hey, I want my child to have the freedom to talk about whatever, speak about whatever. I'm their friend." But then I can honestly say, and from I can even speak on a general basis. I haven't seen too much effectiveness from being a friend to a child than it is for you to actually guide a child, right? I To a certain extent, I think it can get more disrespectful when you put yourself on the same eye level as your child. Because then, like I said, if I see you as one of us and make certain decisions, well, here's another thing. There's a reversal to that at the same time. Um, if a child sees you at the same level as them, who's parenting who? We forget about some of those kids that literally are growing up right now, parenting their parents right now, and they were the child. I literally told X about how I met a 16-year-old kid not too long ago, and the way he was talking about how him and his mom would have conversations, I literally thought they were best friends. I said, no wonder there's no respect here. You see your mom at eye level. And it's not because you're taller than her, and it's not because you're a man. It's the way y'all converse. Y'all seem like best buddies. And if y'all have a friendship and not a uh, son to mother, a mother to son relationship, there's going to always be a disconnect. Me hearing you actually say, "Hey, listen, I had to tell my mom, hey, be careful who you open your heart to. You can't be doing certain things with certain men. You got to protect your heart." I was like, "Yo, what? You're 16 and you talk like this?" Your mom's like, "Yes, all the time." I was like, "That's you sound like a friend." But that'll be the end of my little discussion, my little rant right there. I put things in perspective. That's the negative side of what I say with parents.
Uh, the most important thing of parenting right now to me that I see playing out is nuclear families. You need that.
Oh, nuclear household being attacked. Okay.
You need that. So having two parent households, both parents involved, definitely changes how the kid comes out. Um, Emotional balances, um, just overall lessons in life come out a lot better
Mm-hmm.
when the parents are there and on the same accord. Nowadays, everything is so separated, it automatically creates conflict and chaos. And then we're so, you know, correct in the wrong that we do. A lot of times we'll reproduce, and then you got a kid that's torn in between co parenting, and you have two completely different parents mentally, spiritually, everything. So now it's like a completely different experience to where even if you're the parent that got the kid majority of the time, you send them off for the weekend, they come back, you like reprogram, rewire, reset, reboot. It's the same thing, vice versa. Maybe you're the more progressive mentally parent and you're the weekend parent. Well, good luck. You know what I'm saying? So it's constantly resetting, reprogramming, rewiring. So to break that, it go back to personal choices, who you rock with, what y'all got in common. How do you build? Everything needs a foundation. How do you build these relationships? Then, if children come about, what's the next step? Okay, cool. So it all goes back to simple choices. Now, the friend aspect of parenting right now, um, I mean, I can just call it what it is. Like maybe these parents didn't feel loved growing up from their parents. So what do? The first thing a parent thinks is, I'm gonna get my kid everything I didn't have. That sound good, but that's most likely not a balanced approach a lot of times. So now you're gonna give more than what's needed. You're gonna give too much in certain areas, and a lot of times that friend area is where a lot of people give too much. So the main responsibility of a parent is to produce the best outcomes within that child, because that child is going to become an adult, and that adult is going to give something back to society. So when we separate parenting versus society, parenting will be the foundation as to what kind of people are we putting into society. So not being so much of a friend is critical, because you have to be able to, not trying to play with words, but criticize. A lot of adults can't take no type of critique at all right now. No criticism. Mentally, a lot of people can't grow because they weren't challenged growing up by their parents. So mentally, physically, spiritually, a lot of things have to be taught at home. You have to teach and challenge your kids at home so they get prepared for the world. So that'll be the friendship aspect. And like I say, a lot of things now is just like, let's go into like training your kids to one day be a husband or a wife. That's a hot topic. If relationships aren't successful right now, before we get back, before we get to the people, let's go back to the parenting. If you weren't trained to necessarily be a husband or a wife, or just have emotional or logical balances within your approaches towards relationships, most likely it's not going to work. If the first time you learned about relationships was actually going through experiencing those relationships, 9 times out of 10 you fail. If your parents never set you down, let's start with their unsuccessful relationships. Now they can teach you how to actually play the game. That's normally how it works. But if you got single people teaching single people, well, kids, and then these people end up becoming single or creating broken homes, it's a rinse and repeat. You know what I'm saying? So everything starts with a foundation. So a lot of times now in society, girls are kind of taught, be smart, be educated, be independent. Nowhere in there do you say, hey, look, this is how you get a man. This is how you keep a man. This is how you treat a man. This is what a marriage is. This is what a family setting is. This is how you engage. These are the do's and the don'ts. That's not the emphasis of the energy. For a young guy, it might be like, yo, get out here, get to your bag. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about a family till you're close to 40, 30s, or something like that. So people have to get both sides of the game. What will make you successful? Because you want to put ambitious people within society, but you also want to train people to navigate throughout relationships. Everyone's learning while they're in the game. You're supposed to practice before the game, and that's what's not happening. So, like, the mixing the friend and people not being taught to be in relationships. So now you will see like women doing hypersexual things with their daughters. Like, some people look at it as some shit is cute. Oh, it's a daughter and mother TikTok dance challenge. Well, is that really like that necessary first? And how appropriate is it? These are conversations. And if they're doing TikToks together, which could be looked at as sexual energy, I'm not saying they doing the most, because people hear sexual energy and they think it's always the most. But if you're going to do that in a friendly aspect, which is fun, then are you still teaching your daughter how to be a wife at the same time? They're not getting the balances. You know what I'm saying? We can put our kids in position to watch their siblings, do a lot of adult type of things, but we're not actually teaching them what they need to know to actually become an adult. So they get in one side of the game before they get the other. So that'll be my little rant on that. But kind of combining the two on how they can brick when you're the friend parent and you're not teaching them the responsible things on what they need to know to have successful relationships later. So you got it.
Ah, cool. One of the points I wanted to get across early on was the reason why parenting is really the most effective before society is because you go through the experience of knowing what it is society is trying to mold you as. So it's up to you to know how to teach your child what society is trying to expect out of them, but more so make them understand what the experiences of what you went through and and how you had to adapt, the things you lost at. All those one of the key parts into parenting, right? Some people don't even parent at all. That's why they're like, man, I don't know who's raising these kids most of the time. Listen, if it's not the school system, it's the internet. And if it's one of the two, then you got to question how much involvement did the child really have. Now, I always say, listen, it's so much little time that you have for those who have to co-parent your weekend. You know, what I'm saying part-time father, and listen, sometimes you part-time mother too. There's only so much you can do to be effective in that child's life. So every moment, I would say you must go into a more effective manner into upbringing and raising your child. But just like X said, like, listen, you're going to the weekend. They got them during the weekday, 5 days over out of 2 days. You're gonna reboot, rewire. You're gonna have to go through all them types of stages. And one thing I learned about certain situations that people taught me is like talking over the phone. It's not really a good way to align in co-parenting. The best way to align is actually to sit everybody down at once. So everybody hears what's going on, who can stick to the plan, and who can actually get it done. Because then they find out which parent has been more so down the line in the strongest pursuit when it comes to relationships, discipline, structure, and foundation than it is to have separate conversations over telephone and they can't see it and they only can see you interact with them personally. This is why some of these types of methods have always been a very focus point for some kids to be able to decide who am I going to really be better with. One of the things Tyrese went through, his daughter decided she wanted to stay with the father. Realized like, hey, listen, man, I'd rather be with my dad. And it's not, it's not the money, it's not all that. It's like I see he's a better parent. He has certain things going on. He has things I can learn from a teacher. Same thing. Hold on. I don't want to say his name. I almost said Jamie Foxx. I don't think I don't know Jamie. I don't think Jamie Foxx kid's name. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. No go with me. But even Jamie Foxx has a very healthy relationship with his daughters. So I always like to say, like, sometimes you got to be able to put yourself in that space for the child to be able to see how y'all interact with each other. But outside of that, what can they agree on when it comes to you? So think of it as a triangle. You're going to be the center point that goes down, and they're going to be at the two side points. What they communicate with each other and they communicating in a down effect is all going to contribute going down to you. And which one you'll start leaning towards what side. Like I say, we do lean towards one parent over the other eventually in life. Let's just be honest. And some people say, hey, I love both my parents equally, but there's always the small parts that show the bigger impact and roles when it comes to certain things. So that's very vital when it comes to parenting for those who have to co-parent. Don't be scared to put people down in front of each other, have a conversation, and be able to then execute from that conversation what y'all have agreed upon what would best be suited for the child. As much as I say it like it's easy, I know it's not easy. I know it's not. But if you can get that conversation done, I guarantee it makes it easier for that child to start understanding um, who you are and who they are, how they connect here and how they connect there. Uh, a lot of these things get very uncomfortable when it comes to parent and society. I've seen more parents get groomed by society than it is actually have got parented by their parents. One of the individuals we always talk about, I mean, one of the individuals I talk about, we talk about Kanye West and his kids. He always said, listen, I'm not trying to let society and the parents and the mother ruin my child for a certain outlook. And that's not what we're doing. He said, "No, my child is still a child. I'm still a father. I still want certain things to come into place. I'm not trying to have them go down the same route as the other people in their family on that side has. When they were young celebrities, they were already going through grown adult parties at younger ages. Like when you have people grow up faster than what's needed to, that also warps who they are. People forget that. So even when they start having moments where they're lashing out, there's still a child in them. There's still a child in them. I know listen, I'm sad enough, I come across more grown children than grown adults. As crazy as that sounds. If you ever had a conversation with an adult and you feel like you're talking to a child, that's exactly what I'm getting at. And sometimes when those situations happen, I always ask myself, who in their life did show the direction of you gotta grow the fuck up? Like, hey, look, that's cool, but what about here? And what I learned is through some of those interactions with people I call a grown child, they always dealt with people that tell them it's okay. Hey, you'll get there eventually. Hey, you have all the time in the world. Hey, you might not be looking in good shape, but you can get it done later on. Sometimes y'all need steel and heat to that ass. I'm sorry. You need pressure on you to be able to do more and do better. But see, some things within the parenting culture has already become like, hey, listen, as long as you show up, that's all I care about. I would like the person to show up and improve. Like I said, you can show up because if you show up in your same current conditions, it just translates down the line. My dad never grew up. My mother never grew up. Hey, they never learned responsibilities. Hey, they never learned discipline. But you keep showing up every year, and they'll still have the stagnation of this is who you are and this is how you ever gonna forever be. And they might adopt that same mentality because of it. But yeah, that's my little rant.
Kevin Samuels had a good thing. He was
Yes,
comparing
I had a great thing.
households
Had a great.
to he had a good thing, and he was comparing households by race, and he was saying something impactful. Uh, Differences between, like, let's say, black households and Hispanic households, and some of the upbringing. Some he's like, look, it's primary in some of these households to where, look, the daughters in the house fix the food for their brothers and their father, and he got a lot of backlash for it in the same episode. But when he broke it down, he was like, okay, cool. They learn serve their brothers because on the backside, their brothers are going to be the ones that protect them when they out
Mm-hmm.
there on the work. So it's not that relationships aren't transactional now. It's that people actually don't know how to be transactional. They know how to receive but not give. So it's a guy grows up no matter his race or culture, knowing that if he's trying to get a woman, a wife, he knows there's certain things he's gonna have to give up. His freedom may not be as much of a luxury. Sometimes his personal peace ain't too much of a luxury. He knows his time is gonna be sacrificed. He know his bank account is gonna take some subtracting going down the lines. He knows these things, and a lot of men will know that and be like, okay, bet I still want to step up to that spot. On the flip side, the same energy has to be given with the opposite sex. And if that's given on both sides, because you actually seen it go down, now this goes into the transactional thing on how it's supposed to be. You will have people be in relationships, marriages nonetheless, and you will have the men saying, look, what's mine's is hers. And then you will see some of the wives say, but this is my body. Like, okay. You know what I'm saying? No one owns anybody's body. I'm not saying that. But listen to what the guy went in. What's mine is hers. Happy wife, happy life. Her mentality going in is, these are my boundaries, and da, da, da. You have to have the right energy and the right mood. So if things are transactional, it's a give and a take. If your parents didn't teach you that, you're most likely not going to get it in relationships. You know what I'm saying? Some people, when they go on their rants and they telling you about how the relationship is flawed and who did what and it's fucked up and it's over. How many people actually tell that person, yeah, I hear you, but this is where you wrong at? Hurt? A lot of people, going back to what we open up with, Victor being a victorious person or a victim mentality person, They always go back to the victim role. No matter how successful they are, sometimes outside of the relationship, in certain areas of people's life, they always play the victim. You know what I'm saying? So accountability is something that's taught at home. Conflict resolution is taught at home. If you grew up and you seen, let's just say, uh, let's say in most areas of your life, you've seen women dominate conversations. Um, Women speak loosely and say disrespectful things, but people let it go by because they said, "Oh, that's just such and such. That's how she is." That energy carries on along with you. You probably won't learn, yo, sometimes you just need to shut up because you've seen people speak so freely. Some people saw it with their grandfathers. You know, some people say, look, my daddy, he ain't got no filter. So people go into relationships thinking, well, I'm not going to have a filter. I'm going to keep it real. That's definitely not what you want to do. A filter is not saying you're not keeping it real. You have to learn to be respectful and selective with how you respond to chaos and conflict. Saying the first thing that comes to your mind doesn't make you real. Okay. It shows maturity. And sometimes it can reflect and it can separate why this person is successful in life. They own a business, they got a successful company, a brand, people like them and respect them. And then you got the complete opposite. Most of the people that keep it real a lot of times in relationships will be single and broke.
Single,
Just
bro.
single and broke. We talking about the bottom of the pit.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. I'm like,
I'm in the bottom of the pit.
oh.
Yeah, my hands dirty right. I'm getting my hands dirty.
That's the big thing. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm
hold
getting
on,
my
like,
hands up. I'm getting my hands dirty. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and when you get to a different level, some people may be successful and single, but that's a different conversation. So, in the parenting aspect, you see all these things take place in front of you: conflict resolution, respect, how two adults handle situations. Um, let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Um, a lot of times now, people look at any type of disciplinary actions coming from a parent is wrong. It can be something simple as food. You go to some people's households, they have a household, first off. But then they have things they don't do, things they don't eat. There's no accessible sugar in the house. You know, you want to put something in the fryer or do something, the flour is wheat or it's a different type of flour. That some people have more fruits and vegetables when you go into their homes. Some people got straight up shit you could pop in the microwave, canned goods. You know, you see different type of things play out in front of you in households. And something simple is just what people eat. I was speaking to a coworker and Hispanic guy, and he said, "Look, at my dinner table, keyword, listen up, at my dinner table, it's not an overly dominant guy, but he understands family. We don't use our phones at the table. That's old school parenting. You know what I'm saying? So what do that do? That set the tone. A family does what? They eat together.
and
And
the
when they
present.
eat together, they communicate. All right. Through this communication, their bonds grow stronger. They learn from each other. They have fun together. Things take place at the dinner table that only a family can produce.
Mm-hmm.
But if I eat on the couch, somebody else eat over there, you in your room, you got your TV tray in front of you, everybody on their phone at the table, it takes away from the family experience. So you have to have rules even on the lowest level. So I have respect for people that have rules. I have respect for people that stand on discipline. This is really how you show love. We think love comes in freedom, but before you can get to that freedom, you get the discipline. Discipline produces the possibility for freedom to be created in families. So everything goes back to discipline. It's not, oh, you know, people in a military household, they can't do nothing. That's the negative side of it.
Yeah.
That's completely the negative side of it. And that's why a lot of people that experience any type of discipline, they fold, they run from it. It's too much.
Mm-hmm.
They
Get
become
out of
black.
there. He's
They become
controlling. He.
they
That's my
become, you
favorite
know,
part.
on the lowest level. they may become drug addicts. You know what I'm saying? Rebelling the discipline that they was trying to be taught at home. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So they're gonna get high to escape. Everybody looks for escapism. So discipline is key, even on the lowest level. I respect families that have family diets, family values, morals. They have family time that they spend together. It could be certain nights out the week, game night. Everything when it comes to discipline doesn't have to be strict, boring, and cruel.
Mhm.
Part of that could be fun. Look, every Friday night we come together as a family and we play games. These type of things set a tone. It lets you know, hey, not just do you perform, but your presence is wanted and it's needed. And it's a necessity because you're part of this family, you're part of this brand. I'll let you get it. You got it.
Yeah, I was gonna get into the other aspects of parenting,
Mm.
groomization. You got to be able to groom and mold and build your kids. Very early on, I said in many episodes. Listen, I remember as a kid, I took to etiquette classes. There was gentlemen here, young ladies here. A man walked to the front and said, "Hey, gentlemen, these are your counterparts." He was setting the tone and saying, "This is where you'll find reciprocity and peace in your life. Y'all are going to learn how to do for each other in a relationship." So, one of the things early on I learned was you either are a cooperative person or you have a rebellious spirit. You can't have both. You'll know the difference between people who have cooperated and how much they'll move forward, and you'll see the people who are rebellious and move forward. Either way, you're still making progress towards something, even if it's not in the direction you want it to be. So, as X was talking about, like, hey, listen, doing games at the table. One thing I'll say right now to the men out there, I'm gonna be, hey, I'm going to put it out there. If you have a child and they invite their friend over, show them how you parent. Yeah, show them how you parent. Why? Because you could be one of the biggest factors in their life that make them change and want to become more. I talk about it all the time. Listen, my father was incarcerated for over 20 years. I became who I am due to my family with certain men in it, but more so for the men outside of it. But I was around friends that I was close and locked onto and saw how they fathers moved inside that household, outside that household when we went to certain experience. And just other people I wanted to attach myself to, trying to learn what it is, how I'm going to create myself in the future. You know what I'm saying? Some people like a man stands on business, but what kind of business? Some business y'all stand on is stupid as fuck, but y'all still call it business, right? Man should never do certain things. Like I say this. I remember like when it came to conversations, I was in a relationship. I said, hey, listen, when we have conversations in this bed, even though I really don't like that conversation in this bed, we need to be sitting up and we need to face each other. Talking behind your back, that's not something that's suitable. Some people might find it disrespectful. Some people might look at it like, hey, you're blocking the person off and you're not being open. So you're going to sit straight up and we'll speak, or we'll face each other and speak. See, these are certain things like bad etiquette and certain things like that people ain't never heard about. I remember teaching people just simple things like how to sit at a table. I was like, the ends is for the heads. Nobody's supposed to sit at the end unless it's a special occasion or you're a parent or something within that nature. Some people have never been taught that. And I'd be like, well, look, somebody in your family should have taught you. And they'd be like, well, nobody taught me. But then I have been in situations where I actually visited those families and they actually did teach them. They just didn't want to learn. So that's what I said. You either already have a cooperative mind or you have a rebellious spirit. You have some people that say they've never been taught anything, but they chose not to listen. I've always said one of my biases is I believe everything has been brought about into your mind at one point in time. You just chose to look the other way. It could happen at a very young stage in your life. It could happen later on in your life. And I understand some things haven't happened yet. But you gotta be precautious for people who talk like they know everything and don't fucking know anything. Like those are the types of people I hate to be around. And if I see a woman I'm interacting with, if they have friends and family members like that, we never go far. And I understand because that's what her norm is. I can never make forward progress with them. Like, hey, listen, there's something you did the other day. I think that was unnecessary. And I like you to be more aware of it. When we go out, do this better, like correct this, and I'll be sure. I just want to make this aware to you. That person will go back and tell the person that's in their family or friends, like, hey, he said this that he didn't, he didn't like what I did. Well, maybe he should have been the one that did it. Now it falls out of place. One person is correcting, and the one person is telling them he needs to be corrected. This is why y'all in situations that y'all don't need to be in. This is why I am a firm believer in vetting my woman, vetting her friends, and vetting her family. It's gonna say how much I pour into her, how much she'll receive, and how much I pour into her, it'll fall out of the cup. Because if you haven't had those people that come into your life and tell you like, hey, listen, let me sit you down. Hey, there's some things you do need to improve on. See, I get. Listen, I tell people all the time, like, hey, I eat shit sticks every once in a while. Meaning a person in my life that I put in a certain position to be like, you ain't made no progress. You said you was gonna do this. I get a shit stick. I get that direct criticism. I get all that. A person then because they expect progress. But if you tell somebody the progress you want to make and you don't get shit sticks and they just tell you, hey, it's okay. I'm telling you now, that's not a person who has your best interest. Right? I welcome the criticism. At one point I couldn't take criticism. Very early on in my life. I used to talk about it all the time. As a child, I couldn't take criticism in certain areas. But then when I learned to, everything in my life got better and improved. You got to know who has your interests and who has your. There's a thing that have your interests and people picking at your vulnerability. I think I heard this. There's people who have your interests and people who pick at your vulnerability. A person who's very self-aware can understand where you're already going to be vulnerable at. And all it takes is just a little chip away to get at it and then you'll explode. The criticism comes with the interest. They always say, listen, the coach that really likes you is always on your ass. If you playing a sport and the coach don't say nothing to you, hey, look, you just kind of there, bro. You just kind of there. So even parenting is somewhat of a coaching thing, right? The best way I always say it, like there's different levels to everything that you do as a parent. You're going to be the therapist. You're going to have to be the life coach. You're going to have to be consulting on decisions that are going to make. You have to be able to be in those positions and then ask yourself, have I actually been in these situations before I became a parent? Because then you have more experience when it is come to relatability or when it's time to teach. This is why some people score high in mentoring, coaching, and doing certain of that nature because they understand it's just a part of them. Like when it came to this podcast, I asked, hey, bro, I think we got a voice that people need to hear. Did I know where it's going to go? No, I just say, hey, listen, stop recording, let's start talking. Let's have a lot of conversations. We didn't know the impact they'll make over time. We'll get off an episode. Somebody might call X or text them. Hey, man, I needed to hear that. It'd be the same thing for me. And then I remember I used to have people reach out to me from all over the fucking world. I remember the last person living from Minnesota. I'm like, yeah, how you know I know anybody from Minnesota? But that was a cool little relationship my mom went to do. Even bought a T-shirt for him. I still got it in my drawer right now. Like, man, I sell shirts and this and that. I've been listening to your podcast. You never know how impactful you could be and how impactful your words are, especially when people see you doing the work. You gotta, like I said, you gotta shape up, reshape, rebuild. Some things you gotta. I ain't sure. That's pretty much it right there when it comes to that. Is when it comes to a parenting aspect, you gotta understand what it's gonna take to groom somebody to be more than it is for them to let them wander out to the earth. Right? I respect more. I ain't gonna lie. Some of the best moments I ever seen in my life was uh, watching a parent see their first social interaction with their kids and then realizing right then and there what they didn't teach them. Right. So what I mean like that is I remember going to a family function before, right? And I remember a parent had watched The daughter bring the boyfriend a plastic fork and a plastic knife. He said, "No, no, no, baby. With this type of food and meat, he needs a real knife and fork." It's small things like that. It's small things like that. Like, damn, okay, I teach that. Let me hop on it right now. So there's times for you where where if you did teach them right ahead of time, you should teach them right then and there. There's always opportunities for that.
Yeah, I can see we're gonna stay heavy on the parenting part. We're gonna definitely have to do a part two. But with the vulnerability thing, you said something impactful. The vulnerability in relationships, man, it goes both ways on people being corrected. Some people, um, they have conflict with a partner because of the personality types, the egos, everything. Everything's a clash.
Mhm,
People, first off, you have to know your role.
mhm,
Everybody has a role in a relationship,
mhm,
friendship, intimate relationships, everything. Everybody has a role.
mhm,
And once you come to that understanding, everything flows. Um, people people tend to be able to give more criticism than receive it.
mhm.
Even if you have more success than that person in certain areas, it still doesn't mean that, people play with God to where they say everybody in your life is for a reason and a season. But when people break that down, well, sometimes they never really say that people are in their lives to actually teach them something, not from being beneath them. When people say, yeah, they was here to teach me something, it's always them being superior to the person that's teaching them a lesson. So they
Mhm,
had to learn, oh, don't make this mistake. Oh, I
mhm,
got to be sharper here. No, 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 no. A lot of times when you pick your partners, you really got to understand y'all are eye level
mhm.
when it comes to
Talk to him.
vulnerability and teaching. So if you always position yourself above everybody, then no one's going to be able to teach you anything unless they come from a higher position. And how you put people in those positions can be good and bad for you.
Mhm,
You know what I'm saying? We say it on the simplest level. Bruh, do XYZ. Whatever. Okay, bet. He meet a chick. Man, you wouldn't believe what I thought about today because Shawty told me, oh, she told you that shit? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to miss a message. So for everybody to claim they know God, knowing God is being connected to source. Source is being, where does your information come from? That
mhm,
changes your life, changes who you are. Every day, source should give you new information to push you to a higher level.
mhm,
If you're not constantly tapped in to listen to source, wherever it comes from, then you possibly need to go back and work on that relationship with God. So that's a segue. Look, when people talk about their kids, adults, one thing that I notice in society is they always lead with what they do. Yeah, my son Roger, he works at such and such. He makes good money. Yeah, my son Roger just graduated from college. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My daughter, she just graduated from college. She got a degree in this. Yeah, 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 yeah. My child just bought a house over there. Da, da, da. Okay, well, how many times do you hear my son just got married? My daughter's celebrating her fifth anniversary with her husband. Sometimes parents raise productive people within society, but what are you putting your attention on as to how they function at those levels of being productive? Are they just people that's making money, getting degrees, buying things that aren't really assets, you know, or are there people actually producing foundational families? If you hear people say, yeah, yeah, my daughter, she just had another kid or a kid, and it's not followed up with, well, yeah, her and the father, or boom, this is where you get the success stories. Yeah, my son and his wife, or my son and his, his partner, yeah, they have a family, they got XYZ. You have to pay attention to even what people brag about when it comes to what type of adults they produce into society.
mhm.
On the lowest level, you can hear a father say, "Man, my daughter, man, she tough, man. She got a bad attitude. I know she ain't gonna take no shit." Even on the lowest levels, you pay attention to what people talk about. You know what I'm saying? Some people may say, "Yeah, my son." You have to pay attention to how people brag on their children. That'll let you know in a quick moment. That's not planned conversation all the time. Some people really let you know what the emphasis on their parenting thing skills are based on what they brag about. So we just got to get into a position to where, like I said, you're training your children to be successful people in relationships. That promotes character because let's keep it real. As a parent, or let's say two-parent household, you're only going to be able to teach so much within a certain time window. When the kids leave you, the older they get, they're going to still have that same ability to learn. It's within every person. Everybody still falls back into student mode a lot in life. Now it's just going to depend on who do they trust to give them that type of energy as being a teacher. If they're not trained to see it in a partner, well, then they going to go crazy trying to find it. Hopefully they find it in the right spaces or whatever. So um let's do this part of the conversation. Parenting doesn't mean that I teach you to think the way I think.
Mm.
Parenting means first off I have to teach you how to think. That's the most important thing. Now in the perfect world, I'm continuously building my thinking mentalities, my knowledge, my information. I know a lot of people that are smart that think above the average person, but they'll still put the car in park. They don't continue to learn. They don't continue to dig and wisdom, information, knowledge, assets, whatever. And they get full at that level, but they're still parenting and teaching other people beneath them. So even still, you have to continuously put yourself in a position to grow and adapt and change. So if I'm constantly doing that, what I'm going to do now is teach my child, my children, you have to do the same thing. Life is like a sport. The only difference is we're constantly it's time on the clock until there's no more time left. So every time you wake up, there's still time on the clock. Well, the game's not over until the clock is just completely over and it's done. So what I'm trying to say is now people respond to propaganda in the news emotionally before they get to logic. Well, that let me know your parents most likely didn't have the most logic in the world. You wasn't taught how to think. You was taught what to think. If I if I'm a Republican and every child I produce and raise, I teach them vote Republican. Well, right or wrong, I failed because I didn't teach my child how to think for themselves. Look, this is all the information you need on politics. I want you to study both sides equally. And throughout time, now you may not be able to bring that democratic shit in the house, but once you leave here and move out, I know I equipped you with all the information, knowledge, and everything you need. And if you do that shit once you leave, you know what? I'll put you in a position to make a decision. And because I know you made a intellectual decision, I respect your decision. Now, if I'm on the red side, my children on the blue side, but I put them in position to make an intelligent decision, I know they rooted in knowledge, information, maturity, everything. Well, guess what? If I can get along with them, or you know what I'm saying, it sets a trajectory to where people could get along and not agree. Same thing. Look, this is a Muslim household. Okay, bet. That don't mean, you know what I'm saying, your children are not going to grow up one day to possibly be a Christian. Sometimes it happens that way. But if they come to you and they have the reasons, the knowledge, the information, look, I read both books. These are the things I don't like. This is the history of this. This is the history of that. Okay,